I do have time for an introduction. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hey everybody, my name is Trey. For those of you who do not know me, I want to welcome you to my channel. If you guys are here from my TikTok, I want to thank you for joining me over here. And if this is your first time, welcome to the club. For those of y'all who do not know, I do talk about true crime, and I do talk about it in a way that I think is it's a little different, but it's my way, and I hope that you enjoy it. But first, a word from our sponsors. Oh wait, I ain't got one yet. But don't worry, I'm gonna speak that thing into existence. As always, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button and follow me on here and TikTok, as I normally will have different stories on both platforms. But in either case, that's pretty much all I got to say, so let's go ahead and get into today's story. Today we're going to be talking about the unfortunate murder of Yara Gambirasio. This story was actually suggested to me by one of my followers from TikTok. You guys, this story, there's a lot going on. Now, I can't go over every detail with this story or I will literally be here all day. I'll be here for hours. There is so much to dig into if you want to nitpick about this case. So I'm going to give you guys like the meat and potatoes of the story and a little bit of the sides, maybe some string beans. But I can't go through everything, y'all. It's too much. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Yara was born May the 21st, 1997. She was born in Brembate di Sopra, Italy. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced some of these names, y'all, but this entire story is taking place in Italy. So every name is out of my dictionary. But yeah, Yara, she actually was a gymnast, as you can see here in this picture. She was one of 4 kids to her parents. Her dad's name was Fulvio and her mom's name was Mara. She did have an older sister who was 15. Her name was Kiba, and she had 2 younger brothers. One was Nathan and the other one was Gioli. Our story starts November the 26th, 2010. Yara actually was on her way to the gym in the neighborhood to drop off a stereo and do some light work with her instructor. Now, she was only 13 at the time, but she only lived 700 yards away from the gym. They stayed very, very close. So she went to the gym, she did her light exercises with her instructor, and she left. Around 6:45, she actually texted a friend that she was going to plan to meet up with her friend that following Sunday. So that was the last communication that anyone actually has from her. However, a witnesses did say that they saw her talking to 2 men inside of a red vehicle right beside the gym. But at this point in time, nobody knows who these people are. And just like that, she vanished. She was gone. A little after 7, the parents started to notice, she's been gone for a long time. So they tried calling Yara, but they were not getting an answer. So they did end up calling the police very shortly afterwards. And even though it was a pretty quick and immediate response and there were hundreds of people looking for her, no one found her. Now when the police came out there, they actually brought some bloodhounds, and bloodhounds were sniffing all over the place to try to find Yara. And it always amazes me how dogs can really smell, because they accurately sniffed Yara up until the last point where her phone actually pinged on a tower, which was the opposite direction of her house. And that's kind of where the trace kind of ended for Yara at that point in time now. Now, the police do their job, and so they started investigating the entire family. They go to the mom, the dad, and all the siblings and try to ask them, where's Yara? The family didn't know, and y'all, this broke them. I mean, ever since Yara disappeared, the family they were really unraveling, and the community came together, which is so beautiful. The community came together to really try to help them find Yara, but they weren't finding any hope. You could really see the effects that all this was having on the family on the day after Christmas of 2010, when they had their first television appearance. When they got on screen, they just looked tired. They looked you could just tell that something was wrong with them. The dad was trying to plead with the community to help find Yara. The mom, she was rolling her eyes. She was upset and becoming easily agitated. But it wasn't necessarily, with each other. It was just everything was really taking a toll on them. Even the nuns from the nearby churches actually came to the house to play with Mara, which is Yara's mom. But at that point in time, there was nothing that could be done. Now, I don't know how this was done, but y'all, they put wiretaps on up to 15,000 devices looking for this girl. They started tracking everybody that came in and out of that city the day that Yara went missing. That's when they came across their first suspect. There was this Moroccan man, his name was Mohammed Fikri. Now, Muhammad was actually overheard by a translator saying, "Forgive me, God, I didn't kill her." Someone actually hears this man saying this, and so they're like, They go to the police about this. So they do a little research into Muhammad, and that's when they found out that he was in town the day that Yara went missing. He was working at the builder's yard in Mapello. And very soon after everything, he was on a boat out to Tangiers. A prime suspect. So the police went after Muhammad, and they went after him quick. Now catch this, when they found Muhammad, they actually went to his van that he was using, and they found a mattress inside this van. Yo, the mattress was soaked in blood. But apparently it wasn't Yara's blood, so they were like, oh well, and they just, shoot. And he was ruled out. At least for Yara's murder. I'm not sure what the blood-soaked mattress had to do with anything else, but as it pertains to her, they ruled him out as a suspect. This was in December of 2010. And so for the next couple of months, no one knew anything. That was until February the 26th of 2011, exactly 3 months from the day that she went missing. There was this middle-aged man, his name was Ilario Scotti, and he was playing with one of those remote control airplanes, like model planes that people like to play with. He had one of those. He was at this place called, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it, Chignolo de Sola. Now, he was just out there flying a plane, minding his business. He wasn't doing nothing. But now his plane started messing up, so it fell down. He walked over to the plane. He picked the plane up, trying to figure out what's wrong with his doggone plane. Now, when he picked up the plane, he just so happened to notice over to the side, very near where the plane had landed, he saw a dress, and then he saw a foot, and then he freaked out. The police came, and it was verified that the body belonged to Yara Gambirasio. Now, this is a good thing. I mean, the whole thing is unfortunate, but it's a good thing they finally have a body. They can finally figure out what's going on with her, or really what happened to her. But now she's actually decomposing at this point in time, so they got to work quick to make sure they can get her, because it's been 3 months. So the first thing they do, they look at what she has on and everything on her body at the time. She's wearing a black bomber jacket, a Hello Kitty sweatshirt. She has her iPod, the keys to her house, and the battery to her phone, but the phone is missing. They also find lime and jute. I believe it's pronounced jute. It could be jute. But they also found that on her body. Now, lime and jute, or jute, whatever it is, are 2 ingredients that are known to be used at work sites. So it's believed that the killer is a builder. You see where I'm going with this? It was also then that they found 2 sets of DNA. One set of DNA was on her gloves, and the other set of DNA was on the battery to her phone. Remember, the phone's missing, but the battery's there. They found DNA there. That was pretty much all that could be collected at the scene, so they sent her body in for an autopsy. Now, the autopsy, it did show that they couldn't see that she was abused at the time of her murder. Even though her bra was kind of unbuckled or unhooked, they don't see any signs of abuse in that way. But they also can't tell exactly how she passed away. They best figured that it was a mix of blunt force trauma to the head caused by a sharp object, her hitting the ground, or a rock, hypothermia, and a series of cuts throughout her body. Now, in April, the springtime of 2011, they did find some other DNA though. They found blood that did not belong to her on her underwear, meaning that as she went down fighting. They put this blood into the database and they weren't able to get any hits on anything. So they labeled this blood sample, the person it belongs to, as Ignato 1, which means unknown 1. And on May the 28th, 2011, the family did receive her body back and she was eventually buried between her grandparents. But now that the police has their DNA, they're not going to stop. And y'all, how they figured out who the person was, it blows my mind. Like I was, let me just tell you. Okay, so there was a lot of information I just gave you, and I really just had to go through the information because I had to give you all the backstory and everything up until now. But now we're getting to the discovery phase of how they figured out who the guy is, and y'all, it blew my mind. So after they got this DNA sample that they knew belonged to the killer, they started DNA sampling everybody. Now, in America, you just can't walk up on people and get a DNA without a warrant. And I'm not sure if they was getting warrants for everything. But y'all, they got thousands of DNA samples. People from these villages were just giving in samples because they were like, we didn't do it. But nobody matched the DNA sample that was found on Yara. And they had done almost everybody in her village. So this led to a problem. If it wasn't nobody here, then where the hell were they? That's when the lead detective, she got this bright idea, y'all. Okay, so apparently the thought process was most killers or serial killers or whoever, they would leave a body in a place that they are familiar with. That would be either so they can revisit it or in a place that they know that a lot of people don't go through. Like you wouldn't put it someplace where, anything could happen. You don't know anything about the area. So that process there. So they go back to where they found the body, and very nearby they came across this club. The name of this club was Sabi Mobili, which means quicksand. Now, this club was very, very notorious for all the violent acts and all the violent people that actually visit this club. The area in this club was so bad that the people who went to this club, they actually had to have membership cards just to get into this nightclub. The point of those cards was to keep tabs on who was going in and out, so if anything popped off, they know who was there. Y'all, I just realized y'all can hear like all these birds and stuff chirping outside my window. Sorry. They went to that club and they started getting DNA samples from everybody at the club. And like I said, in America, you just can't walk up and get a DNA sample unless you like steal their trash or something like that. So I don't know how they were getting all these DNA samples, but they got them. Then they came across this one dude who he gave his DNA sample willingly. His name was Damiano Giurinani. Now, Damiano, he was not a suspect because at the time that Yara disappeared, he was actually in South America. But his DNA was so very close to the killer. So close, in fact, that, they was like, this is a very close family member to this dude. So then they went to Damiano and they asked for his mom. And y'all, guess what? His mom, his mother, his mom, she knew Yara. Yep, she knew Yara. And y'all, not just knew of her, she was their housekeeper for 10 years. And up until the year after Yara disappeared, so up until 2011, she had been going in and out of their house 2 times a week. So the police, they started like, damn, gotcha. But they had a problem. She also was not a match. But they didn't give up. So the police, they were tapping their phones. They was going through all of their messages. They was tracking them and following them down. And they were going under intense interrogation, just trying to figure out, if you know something, we gonna find out. And after months and months and months, it finally came down to it. These people don't know nothing. Now, his mom, which her name was Aurora, by the way, she was devastated because she was actually still really close with Yara's family, and now she was under all this scrutiny. But the police, they're just doing their job at this point. And so they started doing like a family tree. Like, okay, if it's not you guys, it's somebody close to you. Yo, the family tree that they did for these people went back to the year 1716. I wish I could trace my family back to 1716, but as y'all know, whatever the story is not about me, let me go ahead and get back to it. The family tree that they did, actually, it provided to be fruitful because it led them to another village named Gorno. So Damiano's dad had a brother, so Damiano's uncle stayed up in Gorno. And the police was like, got him! We got him! But there was another problem. This dude dead. Damiano's uncle, his name was Giuseppe. He had been dead since 1999, so he was gone for 11 years before Yara even went missing. But the police were still there. They're following the trace here. They need to get DNA from Giuseppe to match him to Ignato 1. So they find Giuseppe's widow. Her name was Laura Poli. And y'all, she had some stamps that this man had licked before he died in 1999. Keep in mind, at this point, it's now 12 years later. They found 2 stamps and they matched the DNA. But the match of the DNA was not that Giuseppe was the killer. However, it did match indefinitely that he was the father of the killer. Y'all, this felt like Sherlock Holmes going through all this stuff. I know these people was proud of themselves. But we still not done, y'all. We're like halfway there. So now the police are looking at the dead guy Giuseppe and his wife, or widow, Laura, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Find out that Laura and Giuseppe had 3 kids, 1 girl and 2 boys. Now they also knew that Ignato 1, the DNA sample was for a boy, so the girl was left alone. They went after the 2 boys. Neither one of them was a match. None. Now Laura's confused because she's like, these are the only kids that we got. What do you mean none of them matched? So the police like, hold on. Let us verify that this is actually Giuseppe. So they was like, dead ass. Let's go pick up his dead ass and let's verify. So they went to the graveyard, dug his bones up, and then they verified. They were like, okay, yeah, this is Giuseppe. This DNA belonged to his son. But none of the kids that you have with him. Come to find out, Giuseppe was quite the man whore. Quite the man whore. So they tossed his dead ass back up inside the grave, and Laura, she was probably ugly crying, sliding down a wall somewhere. Now they had another problem. Don't nobody know who this other child is or who this other woman is. Now the devil works harder, but not harder than the police over there in Italy. For months, they were going from village to village to village trying to figure out what had happened with Giuseppe. Now, Laura did say that Giuseppe used to take a 2-week trip every year without her. And y'all, they found out this man, he was doing his thing, bro. But nobody had any idea where this woman was. That was until one day. I mean, now, at this point in time, everybody's been knowing about, because these are small villages. Now they're gossiping because, you know, there's murder cases going on. This dude has an illegitimate son. Everybody's invested. So they started sending in these anonymous letters to the police. And they finally came across another name. Esther Arzufi. Turns out she was Giuseppe's neighbor back in the 1960s. So they used to hunch a lot. Now in 1966, when she was 19 years old, she got married to another man. His name was Gianni Bossetti. I feel like it's finna get a little confusing, so let me actually draw you up a chart here. Okay, so they found the DNA on Yara. They found a close relative of that DNA, which is Damiano Guriani. His mom name was Aurora Zani, who actually worked. She was a maid for Yara's family, but she wasn't a match. Nor was Damiano's dad. But they went to his dad's brother, so Damiano's uncle, whose name is Giuseppe Guriani. He's dead as hell, and he's a man whore. He's actually what they call a cuckold. Y'all, they said a cuckold like 20 times in that article, not even lying. But whatever. So, he's a cuckold. He's married to Laura Pauly. Well, he's dead, so he's no longer married. But there was his wife. She's a widow. They have 3 kids together. But none of them kids were a match. Find out that he was humping his neighbor. Her name was Esther Arzufi. She was married to Gianni Bossetti, and they had kids together, but the kids were not his. And one of them kids finally was Ignato 1. Massimo Giuseppe Bossetti. The nerve, first off, that's not her husband's son. He thinks that is, but it's not. She named her son after the dude that she's having an affair with. What Chris Brown said, these hoes ain't loyal. And same for Laura to Giuseppe, this hoe ain't loyal. So Esther actually had twins. The twins were Massimo and his sister, which was Giuseppe's kids. Those were his twins. And this is Massimo here. Then the police figured out something else. They had his mom's DNA this whole time, but when they ran the DNA, it came back as not a match. And the reason why? Because when they originally ran it, they ran it to her DNA to see if it was a match, not to the killer's DNA. This held up the investigation for like a year or so, y'all. But anyway, they got him now. But they aren't done quite yet. They still need definitive DNA from this dude to prove that it was his DNA that was on Yara. So, y'all, they set up a fake roadblock. And at this roadblock, they were breathalyzing people. So they was breathalyzing everybody that was stopped until they got to him. When they did the breathalyzer test on him, the first try, they acted like the machine wasn't working so they can get another go at it to make sure they had 2 samples of his DNA. Yeah, I'm impressed. They tracked it. If they could track... As soon as they got his DNA, they pretty much, put up the roadblock, let everybody go. And they sent his DNA immediately for testing. And thank God, finally, they got an exact match for Ignato 1. It was Giuseppe Jr. So they got his ass the next day. Now, when he's arrested, he's trying to tell them, he was like, it wasn't me. He said, I have a lot of nosebleeds. And so I have like samples of my blood all over my tools. And someone had broken into my place and they stole all the stuff that murdered Yara with. That was literally his defense. Now, I've told y'all before, you can lie to yourself, you can lie to your mama, you can try to lie to God, but you can never lie to Google. Because they found internet searches on his phone looking for adult videos that featured younger women. They also found out that he hung out around Yara's house. And he parked his car behind the gym that Yara attended. His phone was turned off at 5:45 p.m. the day that Yara disappeared, which would have been November the 26th, 2010. And it didn't come back on until almost 8 o'clock the next morning. So literally the exact time that she disappeared, he turned his phone off. But he swears he ain't have nothing to do with nothing. Then in comes his wife trying to play Captain Save-A-Ho. She stand by her man. And I mean to the bitter end, because it's 9 years later and she still say, he ain't do it. Even though his blood was found on her drawers and she's dead, he ain't do it. Anyway, he was sentenced July the 1st, 2016 to life in prison. Thank God. However, he is constantly trying to appeal these sentences. He's actually submitted for appeal once or twice, but they were all denied. So thank God he's, at this point in time, he's still in prison. And you know what else? All them hoes got exposed. I mean, these hoes. Poor Laura, she had to find out that this man actually was cheating on her for years. Because I know I talked about Massimo and his twin sister was Giuseppe's son and daughter. But there were 3 other kids, y'all. He had 5 illegitimate kids in total outside of his marriage with 3 kids with Laura. And you want to know another hoe that got exposed? This hoe Esther. But not only because the twins were his, but she had to break it down to her sick husband who had terminal cancer, Gianni Bassetti. He found out while he's basically on his deathbed that his kids aren't even his kids. Yo! I mean, to be honest, this sounds like a soap opera, but with ugly people. In either case, rest in peace to little Yara and everybody else that involved. This kind of sucks. And that about wraps up the story for today, you guys. What do you guys think about today's story? Crazy? I know there was a lot of, literally, there's a lot more information, which I told you at the beginning of this story, that, I just could not put everything in. If y'all have any other suggestions or anything that you would like for me to kind of look over, please do not hesitate to, comment on this video, especially what you thought about this video. Also, I have my TikTok channel, which has well over 100 videos on. I think I'm racking towards 200 right now. So you guys can listen for hours and hours. I appreciate you guys so much more than you actually know. I want to thank you guys for staying with me as I grow and as I try to do my best for you guys. I love you all so much. Make sure you guys comment under this video if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions. Make sure you guys check out my TikTok and comment under there as well. Send me DMs. I don't check my DMs as much, really at all, but I do come across them every now and again. So comment will be the best way. Stay safe out there. Have a good one.